Hi folks, it's Tom Garrity here at psychsafety.com, and today I'm sharing some results from our first research pulse. The research that is conducted with and around our community of around 11 or 12,000 people all over the world from different domains, industries and practices. And the question we asked this time was, why do we foster psychological safety in the workplace? What reason do we have for doing this? This is important because most articles and most research focus on the organizational gains from psychological safety. Things like greater innovation, lower failure costs, higher quality work, and things like that. And yes, those benefits really matter. They're important. They're useful. They keep our organizations alive, and they keep people alive a lot of the time. But there's a deeper, invisible motivator behind psychological safety a lot of the time, and we can consider this to be a moral imperative. We don't just do this work because it benefits the organisation, we do it because it's the right thing to do. It's just serendipitous that it also it results in performance gains and higher quality and lower incidence rates and things like that. So psychological safety isn't only a return on investment play, it's also potentially a human right. It's a fundamental recognition of the need for human dignity and fairness in the workplace. So we have these two these two goals that are sometimes in tension with each other: the organizational success and the more humanistic focus. But of course, they also interplay and integrate with each other. So to find out what motivates most people to foster psychological safety, we asked our psychological safety community, readers of our newsletter, community members, social media followers, to pick their top 3 reasons from a list of 12. We for every single survey that went out, it randomized the answers, so there was so it wasn't just that people would pick the top 3 and we'd end up with that. We filtered by IP address to make sure that people didn't we didn't have someone submitting 20 answers of the same thing multiple times. So the top 3 answers that came out of this survey were: 1, a moral imperative, it's the right thing to do. Second was improved team communication and collaboration. And third was greater employee well-being and mental health. And sorry, I said first, second and third. They were actually the equal top 3. They were equal top 3 out of 12. And in fact, they stood out quite high above the rest. So what's really interesting is that amongst all possible reasons, the moral imperative clearly emerged within that top 3. And surprisingly, ethics, this sort of ethical reason, outranks innovation or cost savings in our desire and our rationale for fostering psychological safety. It's for certainly the people who answered this survey, it's not just a performance lever. It's not just another lever to help our organisation perform greater, but it's an ethical commitment. It's a moral commitment. It feels like the right thing to do. People-centric and team-centric reasons, this sort of these well-being and team communication reasons, beat business metrics like profit. In fact, only 1% of respondents picked profit as a primary motivator for fostering psychological safety. There was also some interesting co-occurrences with the answers in this survey. I.e., people answering the same, answering certain questions that appear together multiple times. Both the moral imperative and team communication co-occurred in 20 respondents. Team communication and well-being co-occurred in 23. Moral imperative and well-being co-occurred in 13. And so this sort of collection of these 3 answers suggests these significant overlaps suggests that these 3 reasons are very much conceptually linked in people's minds. What's also interesting is if we look at the mid-tier cluster of responses, things like increased innovation, reduced errors, higher quality, these clustered together logically within the midsection. People tended to answer multiple, so the people who answered these things tended to, so if someone responded with innovation, they also tended to respond with reduced errors and quality. So this suggests that these answers are also logically, conceptually linked for people. What's also interesting, just as from a statistical perspective, is that the top three, being morally right, team well-being, and team communication, emerged very early. From the first 5 or 10 respondents, they began to arise as the top three, and they stayed there, jostling for position slightly, but they stayed there as the sample size grew and grew and grew. That gives us very high confidence in reliability of this data. I should point out though that the sample set that so this survey sample is comprised of those people who are already invested in psychological safety. In a sense, we're surveying the people who already believe in it. We're not surveying those who are yet to be convinced. So what are the key takeaways from this research? The top reasons that people foster psychological safety are not necessarily those that are reflected in the research and in many business articles. In fact, ethics, human dignity, collaboration, and well-being rank right at the top, whereas business metrics like profit and things like that rank somewhere near the bottom. Quality, innovation, and things are fairly important to people. They rank somewhere in the middle. But what we're saying here is that when we're describing the rationale of why we should foster psychological safety to people, we should not just appeal to those hard business metrics like return on investment or extra quality or lower failure rates. They're important, but we should also appeal to people's fundamental sense of fairness and human dignity. So if you're designing a psychological safety program, remember to maybe start with ethics, start with people's dignity and fairness, not just this ROI. We fundamentally believe, many of us, it turns out, fundamentally believe that psychological safety is essentially a human right, something that we should do because it is the right thing to do. So share this video if you agree that psychological safety is more than just a performance driver. It's a moral commitment. And join our next research pulses. We run regular research pulses over at psychsafety.com. And we also have newsletters that you can sign up to, a community you can join, and loads more videos and all this sort of stuff, and lots of training and resources and everything else. And as usual, subscribe, like, share, do all that good stuff. And I will see you next time.